Good afternoon, everyone. I am Anton Ortilla. You can call me Manong Anton. As in McAfee, I am the support engineer, the SE, either support or sales engineer, Ken. I'm also previously in my role in previous companies, I've been a solution architect. And to this day, I am still a lecturer and a researcher in some universities in the north. Kaya tinawag ako Manong Anton kasi I'm an Ilocano. So, pagpasensyahan nyo na po yung aking punto. Yeah. So this afternoon, we will be tackling about, if you've seen the title, it's more of a data and threat protection. Diba? Bakit natin kailangan protektahan ang data natin and from where and ano ang kailangan natin protektahan. Just to give you an introduction, of course, cybersecurity is very important, no? Most especially if you wanted to protect our personal information and whether that's sensitive or whatnot, no? Whether that's ourselves, the data of our family, and our friends, no? And of course, with data, no, with our peace of mind, no, with cybersecurity in place. Of course, that's only in technology if you're relying on technology. Pero there is still a responsibility on our end. No? We need to be aware, no? So that we could continue our job. We can still continue some education. Diba? There's what you call flexible learning right now. Hindi pala learn from home, teach from home. So we call it in SHED and DepEd. We call it flexible learning. We can also produce our own, we can also continue our researches. And in most of the companies right now, no, there's what you call process. Yung mga process nila, operations nila needs to be continuously working and it needs to be secured. No? And to adhere to this cybersecurity importance, of course, McAfee has a portfolio products, solutions, and capabilities that can augment your current practice or can also help you in your current roadmap for cybersecurity. No? I just plug one of the series that I've seen in, I believe it, Netflix, but hindi ko siya pinanood sa Netflix, is Mr. Robot, no? Totoo yun. And majority of the motivations of hackers right now, no, of course, initially they go financial or monetary gain. Some of them, they wanted to revenge, maybe curiosity, no? Revenge on some people, some companies, and of course sometimes they wanted to do some bragging out there that they were able to penetrate this particular facility, this particular website. And in some other motivations, no, some of them are activism, corporate espionage to bring down a particular company, a bank, or energy and utilities. Tapos, very scary right now, it can be used in warfare, so national security. I just plug some tools that's in the dark web right now. If you're able to crawl into the dark web, you've seen a lot of these facilities, may rent a hacker, no? And there's a lot of facilities that sells information, no? Some of them credit card, and some of them even your personal information, no? So, internally in McAfee, we also have intelligence, no? We're seeing a lot of attacks in healthcare, certainly in a lot of countries, no, there is COVID-related or tag-related attacks and threats. No, it can be a fake website, it can be a fake mobile applications, the one that I've shown you. No, of course, people would use this application because they're kind of scared. They wanted to be, informed in terms of this pandemic. No. And even misinformation. I term it misinformation because information, once it's confirmed at the third degree or fourth degree, it's already news. Diba? Pero kung hindi pa confirmed yan, it's still data, it's information. It can be misinformed, it can be a fake information, not until it's confirmed at the third degree, no? Kaya nagiging fake news kung hindi pa siya confirmed ng third degree. And even in social media, Kaya I still give suggestions to some of the users not to be socially inclined, social media inclined, and confirm a third degree if that information in social media is true or whatnot. No? So in the Philippines, no, when based on our probe, based on our sensors, no, this is not updated kasi in the last view that I had, sorry, I had to have to update, it's around 2000 already. So lagyan na lang natin ng 0 or something because this screen capture was way back March. So based on attacks, whether that's a click-through ads, that's a fake dashboard and whatnot, no, most of the activities that's being targeted, no, are coming from the Philippines. This is only in the Philippines. No, there are other spread. So just to give you also a background, social engineering, even in the earlier days, if you've read the book of Kevin Mitnick, no, about the earlier social engineering techniques, no, about phones, about tailgating and the like, no, is being used up to this date, no. Actually, it's the first stage of any cyber attack. They try to socially engineer a lot of end users, a lot of people, a lot of CCTVs out there, no. And there are types of social engineering. As you have known, there are what you call phishing. No? Of course, phishing, the target is your username, can be password, can be your session ID, and all of the salient information that is available in your web transaction. No? And there are other subtypes of phishing. Some of them are deceptive. No? Ako as a human, if I've seen a lot of these types of email, no, it's kind of legit. No? But if I scrutinize it more, there are some emails right there, like the domain name of his Amazon is not the actual Amazon. No? So, of course, us in our companies, we have all of these exercises that we do. But for some of majority of those, our friends, of course, my parents, right? Just seeing the logo for them, it's already legit, no? So there's also the types of spear phishing, no? Spear phishing is targeted for a specific user. They can even mimic your email, it can be mimic your mobile numbers and the like, no? Just to get information from you, no? So there's a lot of victims recently, even here in the Philippines, because of them sending just information, responding to these types of social engineering or subtype of phishing, no? And even whaling, no? This is more targeting an executive in that organization. Of course, with targeting that executive in that organization, yung reputation naman ng company ang amado, no? And of course there is phishing. So if you go to YouTube, no, just type crying baby. DEF CON is the conference in cybersecurity conference in the United States. In just the crying baby background and the complaining of the lady, the social engineer enthusiast, she was able to get an account and change even the personal password of that particular SSS or that mobile number yung kausap niya dun sa screen. So that's one type of social engineering. No? And I'm not against Globe, no, but since I'm also getting a lot of SMS or smishing, I just plug what I have in my phone. No? So I'm not against GMA as well. No? So these are very samples or specimens of SMS phishing. Right? So a lot of people are socially engineered based on just SMS. No? It's so sad. No? There are also deceptive websites, no? Good thing in some of our browsers, they can already detect it, no? There's already warnings, no? But some of them, if you look at this one, it's like a legit Office 365. I can just plug in my username and password there. Yun pala, I'm already giving the recipient of that username password out there. Here are some of the COVID-19 related emails. I got it from my Gmail, no? And they're even using the World Health Organization logo, no? So maybe you've been receiving also from Department of Health, no, very spoofed or smishing emails. There's also falsified misinformation on trackers. No, this is the legit one for the John Hopkins, and maybe you've seen uh, illegal site of or mimic of the John Hopkins, no, because people once they see that there's an increasing, they can already it can already start mayhem in that country. No? And even locally in the Philippines, I've seen this news, no, because of smishing, no, some parents, some Pinoys were already scammed just by having a lot of this smishing, SMS, and even emails, no. So very sad right now that even with a lot of this awareness, a lot of our webinars, a lot of our campaigns that we're doing to give awareness to people, no, they are still socially engineered, no. So in this time of social distancing, we are all vulnerable. You know that people is the most vulnerable entity in the world, no. And with that, alluding back to our new norm that they say, no, we're accessing work using a lot of devices, and with these devices, including the applications that are already in the cloud. I know most of our applications are now resident in the cloud. So there's another vector for another area where hackers thinks about how would I get information, because the cloud is outside our data center. It's outside our country maybe because there are only a number of cloud providers in the Philippines, no? So there's a new reality right now. Of course, some of us who works from the office are accustomed to going to the office, but you know, some of our freelance workers, our developers, our digital nomads are working in different places. No? And when we are shifting from work, or even our kids, our daughters and sons are shifting from home, no? Um, so that's another adjustment, another paradigm for hackers or threat actors to think about, no? So of course, when you're in the office, you know that you already have your security controls in place. So in terms of thinking about data protection pa lang. So in the office, you ask the question, how do I protect data in the endpoint? No? So that's in the office. Of course, you have your firewalls, no? You have your web gateways. But once you communicate you access your cloud application, whether that is software as a service, no, or those services that is open source. Let's say you ask a lot of these questions, no. So we can be already hesitant and be mindful of what we share out there, no. If ever we ask this question, no, but because of our convenience, because we wanted to do work right there and then, no, we wanted to have our employees, our workers to use these services out there. Of course, beneath the layer of software as a service, there is what to call platform as a service. Meron pa ring server yan. Meron pa rin yung infrastructure behind the scenes. So that's another layer where threat actors thinks about, if I penetrate this layer, can I get information on top, diba? So aside from penetrating or accessing those types of storages, yung mga OneDrive, Google Drives, no, they might as well access the same physical servers or cloud servers that's there. No? Very similar once they go inside your data centers, they access your physical servers. No? So it's very similar. No? So the problem, so we go and distinguish what is the access. So this is more of the access problem, no? Whether you're letting your users access data in your software as a service or your data center using a managed device. Ito yung mga company issued devices. Pero ano kung you allow your end users to access your cloud service or your on-premise applications via your bring your own devices or unmanaged naman, di ba? So that is one of the challenges right now because you never know, right? That personal unmanaged or bring your own device has some running malware already. No? And by the time that you allow them, right, most of the companies right now, they do the backhauling. May pinapatakbo silang virtual private network. So they route to the server first, dun sa backhaul or yung VPN before they allow access to the cloud services. Diba? So because the tunnel coming from in the office towards yung tenancy nila or yung cloud service nila, that's the one allowed by that cloud service provider. No? So ganun yung route nila. So some of the challenge right now nasa network natin. No? So in terms of the paradigm of security, no, we think about yung personal or being your own device, it might be vulnerable. No? May mga malware na tumatakbo. Tapos if you're routing all of the transaction towards a VPN, of course yung backhaul natin might need more capacity. Kasi dati yung mga nakakapag-uwi lang or those employees who can just bring home yung mga devices nila, 'di ba? Yung mga remote workers, yung mga executives or mga maybe yung profile nila sales, 'di ba? Tapos, ganun din, we also think about how do we secure yung cloud application. Since we are in this time of digital transformation, no, some of our on-premise application are already migrated to the cloud. So we think about also, since that's not our data center, how would we protect data that's residing there? No? So you have to think also about data sovereignty, data custody, data privacy act, right? Kung bangko naman tayo, we think about BSP 9182, Circular 808, 818, and so on and so forth. No? So those are the challenges that we think about compliance, right? So just to give you another, so this is more of the access, no, from different type of devices. Ngayon, different type of persona naman. As I was mentioning, I was just epitomizing some of those persona. So si Maria is one. Of course, si information security, Dave is another persona or system administrator. Tapos si network administrator, network manager natin, which is si Lee. Of course, si Maria is your executive, your sales. I believe every one of us is already have this persona because we are working from home, no? Of course, this is her objectives, di ba? Maria at sa bahay, they are already sharing documents in her company called Get It Done in their tenancy. But unknowingly, there might be already leaked from cloud to cloud. No? So some data that may be shared on that tenancy might have contain or might contain sensitive information, might be leaked to another tenant. It might be a partner tenancy. Ganun din, in terms of device protection, some say if not only the laptop, no, if I back up my data, let's say not encrypted and whatnot, no, if these devices are stolen, that might be a challenge as well. No? So some data can be exfiltrated or copied, Control-C, Control-V sa external devices natin. Tapos if I'm working from home, no, since some of the policies in our cloud service provider might allow any access as long as you just authenticate. Diba? And challenge doon, if you authenticate, just if that's the only layer of our controls, is just authenticate username and password, maybe some two-factor authentication, one-time PIN, or I'm just accessing it on my personal device. If I sync a data with sensitive information, diba? And this device might be stolen or might be already hacked or there's a running malware already, no? It's very hard to stop it already. Protect the data and retrieve and let's say recall that information. Similarly, if let's say you have access towards another site, no, that is very risky, let's say, and it's not protected, and you were mistakenly, si Maria, were able to send that data in that service, no? So we need to have that protection as well, no? So sensitive data might be shared into that risky application. Let's say it's not the OneDrive, it's not the Google Drive anymore, di ba? Very similar, mistakenly rin, no? I might have a corporate account. I might say with the same interface, look and feel, I might be able to send it there, no? Rather than uploading it to my corporate account, no? So again, we're all humans. This happens, no? And we might think about that as well, no? Right? Very similar to what I mentioned. So after data, no, we think about threat. No? So some of the services that we're accessing, no, if some of us still access some of the free sites for downloading data, movies, and the like, no, a threat can reside already there, no. And if you download that data, some of that data might contain some malware, no, very challenging. And very similar din, no? We're not letting go of our cloud service provider, no? That they say that they're secured, no? I know it's not 100%. Some of the malware might as well reside there, might attach to a document, and might not be detected by your cloud service provider, right? So these are some of the negative consequences from Maria's point of view, no? So I summarize it here. Don't worry, this material will be shared by Miss Jenny and WSI. And ganun din kay Dave. No? So si Dave...
Kala ko si Maria yung isi-share ko eh.
Yeah. So si Dave, ganun din yung challenge niya as administrator. I have to think about the policies across my cloud service security service provider. I might have my AWS, GCP, and Azure, di ba? And I have a lot of DLP on site, no? So I might have time to enforce and optimize a lot of these security and rules, no? And again, by human, no, we make mistakes, no? We may baka relax yung cloud service, strict yung cloud policy ko and rules ko, pero yung on-premise ko naman, medyo relax, no? Or may nakaligtaan akong tick box doon na hindi ko na-enforce at hindi ko na-propagate sa network DLP ko or sa endpoint DLP ko. Or even my firewall or my web gateway, no? So, ganun din. So, I might have an inconsistent control, diba? And I might want to hand-in-hand print a lot of this. Pagtabi ko yung policies that is presented to be my Azure, my GCP, and it needs to be synchronized, aligned to a sense to my web gateway and to my endpoint DLP. Of course, iba yung construct niyan, magkaiba. And it's very challenging having a lot of this dashboard. If, let's say, I've already have people on site and they're doing it, di ba, much better, right? And these are some of the challenges in an InfoSec or administrator standpoint, di ba? So I might have a different rule set of my classification on premise, iba rin yung pattern ko and formula ko dun sa cloud, di ba? And of course, I have different types of DLP policy engines, and in terms of administering and doing a strict rule, it might be unsynced, no? Kasi we have to think about the persona, the location of those access, right? So those are some of the challenges that you're seeing in the InfoSec. And ganun din kay Lee. As I already have mentioned, right, there is a backhaul or an MPLS tunnel that some of your remote workers needs to have. And if this VPN or an MPLS tunnel backhaul is not available, hindi nila magagawa yung trabaho nila, right? So productivity drops, and of course, ang negative implications nito, they cannot work. They have a reason not to work, right? And of course, business is based on the productivity and efficiency of bawat remote workers natin, diba? I know internet is one of the challenge, right? So you think about also the backhaul, kasi the backhaul is the one aligning that this particular access is secured, diba? VPN yun yung unang sagot natin for remote, diba? So some of the challenges, MPLS tunnels might be congested. and we might as well invest more on hardware, and it's not already addressing a lot of our situation right now, no? In this time of pandemic, right? So, just going to the methodology of data security, no? Minsan inuuna natin yung on-premise. There is still a gap in terms of access in the web, so cloud security, right? Some of the companies invest on just the network side of it, no, investing on on-premise web gateway or forward proxy, or yung katumbas nito na sa cloud. There is also web gateway services that's out there, but we don't think into the paradigm also of what's data that is residing on my endpoint, even data that is residing on the cloud, right? And some of the companies just focus on protecting data in the cloud without looking into the network layer and also in the endpoint, no? So with that, no, as I mentioned, McAfee has synergized a lot of the solutions that we have and presenting you as a unified cloud edge. So it's teaching the endpoint protection, the DLP endpoint protection, synergizing it with the aspect of network, data in motion, diba? Data in use, and of course data that is in the cloud. So there is also a cloud security platform that's there. If you have heard about Sky High and the like, so it's synergizing it into one solution called Unified Cloud Edge. No? Just to give you a wrap up, no, a summary of all of the features. No, of course, you have a single dashboard to manage your policies, to address risk, and to see whether that cloud application or that particular entity is accessing this cloud application is secured and whatnot. You can also address and measure risk. No, in terms of addressing threats and data leakage and the like, no, you already have a single dashboard to administer and do response and actions in terms of these particular challenges in your organization. And of course, in terms of technology itself, no, since cloud security is already performing assessment towards risky applications out there, it's already telling the network protection and enforcing, say, a network protection, this particular website has a very high risk score. Maybe you just add more stricter rules in your policy, no? So without the intervention of your cloud security or your information security administrators, right? And all other use cases, you can prevent tenant restriction, yung pagkakamali ng personal versus business, no? And of course, you will also have context aware of whether that is a managed and unmanaged device, no? So they might have two sets of policies for allowing and disallowing access towards your cloud storage or cloud application, right? So it's synergizing your security web gateway, your cloud security, or we call it CASB, Cloud Access Security Broker, and your DLP. By the way, your endpoint DLP. So all in all, we call it unifying cloud edge or unified cloud edge, right? Of course, it will provide you with a converged administration with a simplified way of enforcing rules. Behind the covers, of course, McAfee is still offering sa standalone this type of solutions. No, you can still subscribe on the cloud security platform, which we call it Envision Cloud, which is the Sky High company before. There is also a standalone web protection, whether that's on-premise or that's a cloud service. And synergizing it with your DLP, so it's on the endpoint protection. So if you already have invested on the endpoint protection, the antivirus device, just adding a feature on top of that, right? If not, then if you have your own AV, it will just complement that protection in terms of data. All right? In an architectural view, again, in the line of your cloud strategy, of course, some of your access, some of your applications are being migrated and digitally transformed to the cloud. So meron tayong software as a service, infrastructure as a service beneath the layer of your SaaS. And of course, in terms of personal access, personal devices, bring your own device, and those managed with agents that is managed by the enterprise. You have to think about all of these types of access. Yan, so, and there's even cloud to cloud, no? There's even cloud to cloud access, right? So data security is administered in the cloud as well as in your network, right? And as well as in your devices, right? In terms of protection, no, of course, in McAfee, we have the strategy of device to cloud. We're not just an antivirus company just protecting threat. No, we're also doing data protection. No? And thinking about not only or believing not only protecting it on the device but also in the network as well as where you put data outside, no, outside your data center, right? So the device to cloud strategy, right? This is the actual framework. Actually, we call it an architecture and a framework of having the vision of the device to cloud protection. No, it's complementing the endpoint protection for threat. No, so you already have your data protection here in synergized with your threat protection. The APP, by the way, is your endpoint protection. And of course, we have the tools, one of the demand tools for operations called EDR, the endpoint detection and response to complement your enforcer, which is your antivirus. And of course, all of these technologies is administered by our central management platform. We call it the e-policy orchestrator, whether you're subscribed with the standalone application or the unified cloud edge, and to map it to, and you can use the same platform to administer and enforce your policies in terms of threat protection. No? It's the same platform, by the way. So, of course, these are some of the challenges, no? If you're just looking into endpoint protection and just the firewall or the gateway, no? They have different security controls out there, no? As I mentioned, cloud security is just protecting data and threat from the cloud. You can have your web gateway, your external web gateway, or your on-premise for access. And there is different types of layer protection even. Kasi infrastructure sa kasi platform has your server, your containers, your Docker images, right? So those are different types of layers in your cloud, and there are different types of security as well, no? And ganun din iniisip ng mga threat actors natin. All of these vectors, they have their own types of attacks, no? So with as I mentioned about yung MPL, so yung mga remote workers natin still goes to your data center, right? And other, let's say, other data centers, maybe your disaster recovery data centers, nagkakaproblema yung, again, no, so sir, we are shifting some of our workloads towards the cloud, no, our architecture will be already changed, no. So in terms of the backhaul, in terms of our firewall and web gateways, if you are routing your remote workers at home to just go to connect to your VPN, ganun din yung workload ng web gateway at firewall natin. So it will scale, no? So rather than protecting them on a different architecture, no? So rather than relying on that VPN, in terms of the unified cloud security approach of McAfee, no? So, Unified Cloud Edge in Synergy protects your cloud. No, already have an integration via API, no, protecting data and threat that can be resident there, can protect the layers of your cloud. No, also data that is being sent in and out your data. So you can already propose a gateway service that is part of your Unified Cloud Edge. And enforce also on-device protection for your data. So you already have your cloud security DLP, right? May DLP na tayo. Meron na rin tayong device DLP, and we have also your web or network DLP. All together in unifying it together as one using UCE, Unified Cloud Edge. All right. Of course, just to drill down on how Unified Cloud Edge or the Envision Cloud protects the IaaS and PaaS layers, it checks for the security configuration, the microsegmentation of all of your Docker images or your containers. No? It's not just the operating system behind the scenes, but also the new wave of platform right now. Yung mga Docker being managed by Kubernetes and all of those terminologies in our infrastructure as a service or platform as a service. And of course, it complements your endpoint protection, whether that's AV or whether the customer has already EDR. No? In case that you will be subscribing with McAfee, it will be managed with the same cloud platform. All right. Okay. Okay, so I've gone through a lot of this architecture already, no? The VPN going towards to the, let's say if you're from the branch office, no? So this architecture is for about, for example, no? For all of the bank-related transaction, ATM, tellering, they can still go to the MPLS backhaul to the VPN towards the head office or data center for all of that bank-related transaction, for example. But for employees or tellers who are accessing web or application in the cloud, let's say their Office 365, they don't have to go to this route, no? They can just go to this route and be cascaded towards or routed towards your Unified Cloud Edge, right? So your Unified Cloud Edge already saying that, is this transaction legit? Is this end user using his or her personal device and whatnot? And if the transaction is legit and whatnot, it will allow it to pass through. So it's not congesting your on-premise network already, right? So if that employee goes home naman, no? So rather than them running through the VPN, no? Again, congesting the tellering, the ATM, and all of those legit transaction, I will just rather go to my proxy, no, without a VPN, but of course I have a client proxy, no, a client proxy or a DLP. So if it's a web access, I would be routed here and say that I'm accessing my cloud service. Again, if say that if that is an on-premise naman, an on-premise application, and it's not exposed to the web, then there will be need to be routed towards this path again, no? Kung on-premise naman yung application na that employee is accessing, no? Right? And of course, if I am imposing DLP naman, if the data is residing here, no? If I'm trying to exfiltrate it outside there, no? It's the same platform pushing the policy and saying that you cannot send that or whatnot. Okay. This is a more detailed architecture. All right, I will not go through this one. No, we can have a more in-depth discussion for this. Just to give you a technical, I mean, how the data is being inspected in the web, no, in the web gateway part of the UCE, no. Of course, nandun na meron ng web antivirus, reputation checking, blended with the threat intelligence out there. Secondly, they are, I mean, the web gateway inspection does also an emulation, web emulation. So it's trying to emulate your web transaction behind the scenes, trying for and checking for any zero-day web attacks, no? So that's the layer that's happening in all web gateway transaction. And behind the scenes that's being done, it's like an antivirus for files, no? It's more of a web transaction. Now, in rare cases, let's say you still wanted to access that web application that is at high risk, it is being refuted already by that reputation and scrutinized by this one, and see that there is what you call isolation. No? This is very different from the emulation. Emulation is just like trying to see what the action is being done in the session, but isolation is like providing you another layer. It's like the Inception movie for you to still continue your web transaction in an isolated environment. So hindi na yan naka-render sa yung browser objects natin sa web, but rather you will be having like a remote access to another browser in a remote location, and that's where the isolation for that browsing is happening. But again, that depends on the rules and policies that are imposed in your web protection, no? If you wanted still to do that isolation, right? So these are the layers that can be imposed and enforced in your web DLP, right? And the reason why McAfee indicates in that web service, that web protection service, or in that cloud forward proxy, cloud security forward proxy, an availability of this metric, 99.999%. Again, going back to our architecture, di ba? We wanted all of those employees being routed to that particular web service to have an access without downtime. Diba? Kasi kanina nga, we were talking about the existing investment of MPLS and VPN tunnel, no? We wanted to have that availability of that access or that web service to be available as much as possible. No? Because with that, again, going back to that problem, the employees might not be working anymore, right? So the reason why there is the measure is at fifth degree or third degree of the decimal, because in a given year, somewhat as a computed, yung downtime is 5 minutes. Kasi ang uptime mo is 99.999%. So if you compute it for a year, it's 5 minutes, no? But for a given month, for a given week, and a given day, it's only a percentage of that one, right? And in the Philippines, now we already have points of presence here. We have one. Of course, it's in partnership with our IP backbone or our cloud service, or our internet service provider, right? Okay. So we'll go to the use cases. No, this is the use case. As I mentioned, we'll just blaze through this one. So with Unified Cloud Edge, no, going back to Maria's persona, so UC is already doing the scanning of data that has sensitive information. No? So if it's being copied outside, it will be prevented, no? Because that data already contains very sensitive information. So ganun din sa endpoint, if the data is being copied outside to an external device or being attached to the email, no, it will be prevented. No? So that are some of the data controls that we wanted to protect in Maria's persona. And then if Maria is trying to access the business tenancy or let's say your corporate instance of your Office 365, your Salesforce and whatnot, using an unmanaged device, using the cloud web protection or the forward proxy, you're being restricted already. Say if that device is not allowed. No? Again, there are integration with mobile device management so that we can get the context if that device is managed or whatnot. No? All right. And as I mentioned, no, there is also data. Let's say I wanted to send it to other services. We can already, some risky services that is out there, we're trying to attach it via the types of Slack, no, or let's say risky Teams domain, no, very similar to those services that are tagged as high risk. No? So we can already stop the upload of that data, right? So it will block uploads to high risky services that's out there. So that's data. Now we go to threat naman. So threat, so using the engine of McAfee, of course, no, and with the threat reputation intelligence of McAfee. So if data is originated from that cloud service, you can already stop it. If it's natively created, no, if there is a direct attack by that particular threat actor towards that cloud service, the same platform UCE can already prevent that particular threat actor when he or she is trying to breach that cloud service. No? So going to Dave's persona naman, no? So in terms of managing policies and DLP rules, if I wanted to create profiles, the likes of public, confidential, or consultants or partner who are accessing that cloud service, I can using the same dashboard, I can propagate cloud policy in, let's say, a cloud policy and rules in my cloud service provider, and or policies that's in my web as well as in my endpoint device. No? And in terms of administering problems, no, remediating problems, I can address it and see in the same dashboard that that particular alerts, that particular assessment, no, without going to different dashboards anymore. Right? Very similar to Lee, using the same platform, diba? Behind the scenes, there's web, right? Your web gateway, right? I can use the same UCE solution to as my backhaul, my semi backhaul, no, for my other users who are not doing, who is not system to system, no. It's more of access of that employees when he or she goes home or when he or she is doing web access rather than doing the VPN route, no, not to congest that particular VPN or MPLS tunnel, right? So that is the persona use cases. Now we go somewhat behind fine grain on the technical side of it, no. So naririnig natin yung shadow IT. Shadow IT for me is just services that is out there in the cloud that cannot be managed by any cloud security platform. Diba? Kasi wala silang API. There's no way for you to do the scrutiny, to do integration, to impose DLP. No? What you can do is just protect over the data in motion or in the web. No? So for example, si managed device, the path that you're allowing, no, for this one is you can just allow managed device to upload sensitive information towards your OneDrive or business OneDrive rather than and preventing them to be uploaded to your other services out there. No? So behind the scenes, when web proxy, yan siya yung sumasalo lahat ng web transaction natin, it talks to the cloud security component. Hey, cloud security, ano yung nakikita mo dito sa mga services na to? So si cloud security, since it's the one doing all of the assessment, all of the risk assessment across all services in the web, no, has already as a risk scoring. So parang may penetration score na siya doon, may risk scoring na siya doon. So sasabihin niya pabalik kay enforcer kasi yung enforcer is the one fronting all of the devices. I have you to prevent all of these risky applications, no? So by the time that that managed device tries to access OneDrive, kasi sabihin natin natag si OneDrive na non-business to have a high score, no, it will be blocked on the gate, no, hindi na siya dadalo dun sa, the data will not be stored in that OneDrive. So you have a lot of the prevention already because na-assess na ni McAfee. So there's no intervention already. You can already do the closed loop remediation at this accord. And you will just allow access towards those approved cloud service, right? Second, doon naman sa unmanaged device. So, for example, that unmanaged device is trying to upload data, no, using the business, the OneDrive for business. So there is an attempt. So behind the scenes, with the synergy of mobile device management, and there's already a lookup in the threat intelligence reputation facility or repository of McAfee. There's already a context awareness that maybe this unmanaged device, kahit hindi siya unmanaged, hindi siya legit, but that person with the same credentials, with the same context that this particular content, that web content doesn't have any threats, right? Maybe there's also an integration with a step-up authentication, the likes of Okta, for example, no, a single sign-on. No? Once all of that routine that is done on validation and verification, That's the time that you can already upload a data. Kasi maybe yung upload na yan contains a malware, diba? So yung content can be inspected already, can be scrutinized already before it can be passed through and uploaded towards OneDrive for business. So yun yung nagagawa po ng UCE natin, right? This is another use case, no? So we're trying to protect data that is on the device. So using the UCE Advanced Suite, no? If someone is trying to leak information, data that has sensitive information in that document, baka nagkamali lang, you can already do a prompt. There's already a prompt and educate the user. Diba? Pero pag makulit, sinubukan niyang exfiltrate using yung email niya over the web, no? And we see via the web protection, no? See that data already have sensitive information, and based on the DLP classification rules, we don't allow that on even attachment, no? We can send back an email response that you're not allowed, no? Ganun din, again, going back to the one that we have discussed, is trying to exfiltrate using yung personal OneDrive niya, hindi pa rin allowed, no? So, just to give you a run-through, this is the user experience on the device, no? Sinusubukan niyang i-upload dun sa device, so ito yung prompt na mapakita. So, again, you can customize this one into a more conducive and more educational or more aware message or educational message towards your user, no? Ganon din if that user tries to upload and exfiltrate using an attachment, diba? So, trying to upload data as an attachment, diba? So, ito yung magiging notification niya. So, may cloud email siya na is trying to collaborate and upload data. And for, let's say, uploading in the personal OneDrive, diba, rather than the corporate OneDrive, ito naman yun, I'm being blocked. So, tenancy block naman to. At the gate pa lang, I'm already blocked and I'm not able to access that particular OneDrive. No? So, at the end of the day, you already have protected data, can be exfiltrated in all of those vectors, di ba? And just allow only corporate access, right? Just to give you recorded one of my sessions. Actually, I have a lot of videos to show you supposedly, but I just recorded one video that this is more of an activity blocking. No? So in my web policy, I am disallowing my end user. Say my endpoint already have that proxy agent, no, installed. Tapos ito yung policy na nakalagay doon. So I am being disallowed to perform an upload in Dropbox and even perform upload in Facebook or do a post in my Facebook. Or even search companies and do a post in my LinkedIn, no. Just to fast track, no. This is my Facebook. I'm trying to post in my stream message, no. By the way, my avatar is, my picture profile pic is Bob Marley, one of my favorite musician, my favorite genre as well. So you see that there is no update in my stream, no. It's not updated right there and then. So I go to the chat, no. I'm trying to chat my mom, no. So I'm trying to send her a message, you know, and right at the gate, I'm already restricted. No? So that's the user experience based on the web policy that we have created, right? Ganun din kay Dropbox, no? If I'm trying to upload and perform an upload towards Dropbox, right at the gate, I am restricted. No? So another video that I can share is more of the DLP policy. Let me go there. Video na lang tayo. Actually, I can run through the actual, pero mas madali na lang to. So, already have classified my data content to have a very sensitive information, no? So on my endpoint, I am being restricted to upload data that has personal identifiable information, first name, last name, credit card number, SSS number, and so on and so forth, diba? There's already classification rule. If you've seen here, there is a classification rules that is already processed. So any actions over the web that I am trying to perform with this type of documents so I'm trying to upload, no? I'm showing it first here in Google Drive. So one service that I selected, yung una, yung data na walang PII, personal identifiable information, I'm trying to upload it. Just to show you, ito yung may PII, by the way. Ito yung sample data may PII. Right? Tapos yung isang data ko that I uploaded, yung walang PII, yan na yung laman niya. Kahit may header siya, di ba? So once I try to upload using Google Drive, no? So it's taking a long time to upload yung may PII. Tapos once I try to upload yung walang PII, I know it. So malit na yung file na yan, is 5 kilobytes and whatnot. So there's already inspection. So yun, since wala masyadong laman, it's being uploaded. Very known DLP tool, we call it DLP test. So using the same files, no, once I upload yung data with PII, right there and then you see an error that there's an HTTP error that it's already being restricted from at the gate or at the web tier. No? And if I try to upload the data with without PII, it goes through, right? So another use case, so that's data. Let me check yung web filtering. Common na kasi yun sa web gateway. Yung web filtering is more of the URL filtering. So I'll just show you this, yung application blocking. The application blocking is more of a tenancy block. It's more of blocking high-risk application. So for example, this one, I created a rule, application blocking for application that has legal risk. So ito is, if there is an IPO, if I use this service, tapos I use their service, and there is legal implications that if I put a plagiarized information there or a stolen information, I will be sued by that particular application. So for example, itong SourceForge, in this particular rule set, no, I'm just blocking those applications that has legal implication. In my rule set, in my qualification, SourceForge, I think SourceForge yun, ito, yep. Yeah, SourceForge has legal risk, no? This is just the rule set that I created. So by the time that I am using, if that particular user or developer is using that SourceForge, no, ang user experience niya, once I access that website, I have a block already kasi it's based on the application blocking. So that's based on my legal rule set, diba? My legal rule set. Another, just to show you yung threat protection naman, threat protection, right? So there's already, at the web layer, there's already, as I mentioned kanina, meron ng AV. So aside from that, mauuna mo ng protection yung reputation and web filtering. Of course, you can create various web filtering for on-premise, tapos you have another web filter rule for remote users, diba? So mas stricter yung rules ng remote. And you can create various rule sets and conditions via IP address or via username and groups or AD groups and farms, no? So yan muna yung mauuna, yung sa web filter mo na. Then mangyayari, so you see the web filtering, there's already checking in the threat intelligence whether that particular transaction is risky and whatnot. No? So yan yung unang at the gate as I mentioned. Yung susunod, you notice that there is already checking of payloads. There's already categorization that is being checked in terms of web filtering. No? Tapos when we go to the actual payload, yung naman nung session natin, there's already antivirus checking. So may antivirus checking na rin tayo. So in the antivirus, you can already perform, so aside from antivirus, there is anti-malware. Yung mga zero-day naman natin. So you can perform sensitivity checking in terms of unknown threats. Ito pa yung mga wala dun sa mga reputation, wala dun sa mga virus signature, may more of behavioral, di ba? So we can already perform that one. No? So, but again, in my scenario in this one, no, you can go to these types of test center and try to download those malicious content. No? So if I access based on the web filter, nauna naman yung filter, I can see that I'm already blocked via the HTTP and HTTPS already, right? So, yung ginawa ko yata dito yung isa is yung HTTPS, since hindi trusted yung mga certificate ng HTTPS, I'm already blocking it. So apart from that, I go to the payload, no? I go to the content, no? And try to download all of this malicious content. No? There's already blocking that will happen about the gate. So you see, we already have discussed a lot of use cases that can be used in UCE. All right. I will not go to the. Let me go to the dashboard. No. Very quick one. I can access my dashboard. Teka, mali na yata yung credentials. So, so anyhow, nakalimutan ko yung credentials ko, sorry. I'll just go direct to the license, just to give. So licensing is per user. We have two bundles. The two bundles, yung basic, focuses on the use cases for more web. Yung mga nakita natin yung mga web, more web-related, tapos may konting yung mga risk assessment ng mga cloud services. Nandun yung shadow IT. Ngayon, if you wanted to do an enforcement na may cloud security tayo who's checking the content in our cloud, in our endpoint, yung endpoint saka yung cloud layer, the bundle for Unified Cloud Edge Advanced is is the one offering that you have to take into. All right. Since this will be shared, I'll give on this as a reference. Again, there are the features and the components that's part of the bundling, the basic and the advanced. Again, a standalone offering can be offered by WSI. No? So in summary, no, how unifying all of this technology give you a good security posture, diba? So of course, there is already cloud assessment, no? You already have cloud native architecture, yung SASE. You can already prevent cloud breach in unified management. So not only cloud at rest, cloud in motion, cloud at rest in the cloud, no? Data in the cloud and all other layers, no? And as in terms of operation, you are doing a consistent data protection, not only data but threat, diba? So whether that's on endpoint, that's on the layer of the network, or even in the cloud service, using your all of these security controls as one And in that architecture, summary, ito yung ginagawa, just to simplify it as as well as those data endpoints that has agents already for DLP and even cloud proxy. Of course, yung unmanaged, it will go through your web gateway, and or if they go directly, no, you have your cloud security. So those are the different vectors. Just for why McAfee? Because of our device to cloud strategy. All right. Just to give you a plug, we have a new offering called Insights. Actually, it's an added feature on the central management dashboard. No, it's already giving more posture assessment in your endpoints if you have endpoint security already, your antivirus. But if not, it's giving you more information for the campaigns of threat actors, di ba? So as I mentioned, if there are the likes of COVID-related campaigns done by mga anonymous PH, di ba, na nakikita ni McAfee, and all of data that is being monitored by our threat intelligence, our research team, and our engineering team behind the scenes is already being shared to you in a dashboard so that you can already use it later on for your threat hunting. And it can already perform, if in case you're using the endpoint of McAfee, it can already say that based on that particular attack campaign of that particular group, no, you're already secured from that particular campaign. No? There's already assessment, a security posture given to you as a risk assessment. And ganun din kung ilan dun sa mga endpoints nyo secured from that particular campaign and whatnot. So that campaign can have malwares, can have zero-day attacks, and so on and so forth. So that's called Envision Insight. So those data is already in the data lake of McAfee. Nandun na po yung mga threat intelligence, andun na yung mga scrape information from the dark web, andun na po yung mga analysis, mga machine learning and AI consolidated into the data lake, and it's presenting to you in a more fashion that you would later on use for your assessment, so security posture. All right, so you see here there's COVID-19 phishing lures. As I mentioned in earlier of our discussion, doon nauuna yung doon nagsisimula yung mga attacks ng social engineering. As a plug.
Hi, Anton. Yeah, Kathy's raising her hand.
Alright, sige.
Yeah, I just need to remind you of the time, Anton.
Oh yeah.
You're needed in the next meeting.
Oh yeah, siguro just a plug. Ito yung mga payo ko. Since we are talking about cybersecurity, be resilient, no? Paniwalaan nyo lang itong mga website na to. Kung kulang man yung binibigay nila, just make sure that these are the legit sites, no? Of course, be resilient. Ensure that your endpoint protection is up to date, whether that's version number and the virus definition and the patterns that's there. Hoping that you use McAfee. Again, this is more of a general. Avoid using public Wi-Fi. Secure your network sa bahay ninyo. Of course, if you're provided with VPN, use that, no? And as a recurring, no, use strong passwords in your Wi-Fi, even in your VPN. Right? Kasi bago kayo mag-VPN session, hindi pa rin kayo secured, right? So, as much as possible, use your VPN company used. I know there are a lot of VPNs out there, but again, if it's for work, it's for corporate, just use that. I know you're using your other VPNs para mapanood niyo yung mga ibang Netflix na hindi offered sa Pilipinas, no? Be resilient, no? Separate work from personal devices. Sana, no? We can do that. You carve boundaries between work life and home life, no? At our homes is very tough, no? So just be resilient on that accord and exercise caution when providing personal information. Going to the one that we were scammed, no? Very tough yun. If you don't exercise caution, we then advise our family, and it's very tough. And do not download or open email from unknown attachment, no? From unknown senders, no? They may contain actual digital viruses. Maliban dun sa nCoV or COVID-19 virus natin is very tough, no? Ganun din, we don't open viruses, no? And lastly, think before you click. Do not click links that's there, even coming from SMS and all of those, right? So having said that, maraming salamat sa oras ninyo, and I pray that everyone is healthy. And if you have other questions, wild reactions, I just route it to Miss Jenny. And
And Cathy.